to get through this.
Easy for listening. I wasn't able to do it.
Easy for dancing.
I'm not a great lover of cats. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Not me, but that's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Hello and welcome to Shadowboxing. Today my guest is the Honorable Michelle Roberts, Shadow Minister for Police, Tourism, and Michelle, you got a very interesting role. Tell me about it.
I'm Manager of Opposition Business.
What does it mean? Is it business you spend money?
It's what Anthony Albanese does in the Federal Parliament, and you coordinate the opposition's effort when Parliament's sitting. So it's a very busy role when Parliament's sitting, and it requires me being in the chamber quite a bit of the time and coordinating the order of our speakers. And whilst the speaker calls people when they seek the call, I coordinate our team and let them know when the bill that they're interested is coming up, or when I require them in the chamber if we're going to be having a vote on something.
It's a very interesting job.
It certainly is.
And how can you manage that?
Oh, well, it puts me front and centre when Parliament's sitting, and I have to also liaise with the government in terms of our opposition time, because we get some opposition times in the Parliament each week to raise a couple of grievances and also to raise a private member's business, which we have 3 hours of that once a week. And the day before, we give them advice as to usually about two motions that we want to bring on for debate, on our terms, because normally the government's got the number and they dictate what
What's
bills,
happening in life, yes.
What bills are before the House. But for 3 hours each week, we get the opportunity of calling the shots.
I heard also you are the first one who's doing that job as a woman. Never happened before.
That's right. It's it requires someone who's experienced and been in the Parliament a while, so that you know the parliamentary procedures and the standing orders, and also someone who's not too shy.
And we got the person for that,
That's
I hope.
Right. I hope so, yeah.
So how long you are in politics?
I've been a Member of Parliament for 18 years, so yeah, I'm one of the more experienced people there.
How do you see politics from the eyes of the woman?
It's interesting, it's my job to see it through the whole community, but women are certainly underrepresented in the lower house of state parliament, and I think it would be a good thing to have more women. We've got more on our side of the house, of course, than the Conservatives have, but I suppose I don't particularly see it as my role to look at it just from a woman's point of view, but obviously there's things that I'm more familiar with, especially things to do with children and healthcare and education than what some men are. But these days there's a lot of very sensitive new age blokes as well, and some of our younger men are really good role models in terms of the way that they look after their own children.
Now you are a shadow minister of different portfolios. Have you been a minister before? And what sort?
I have. I've done a lot of roles in government. I think the one I'm remembered most for is the 5 years I spent as Minister for Police and Emergency Services. Certainly a challenging job to be Minister for those portfolios for that length of time. But I also had the opportunity to, at various stages, sometimes overlapping with those roles, to be Minister for Housing and Works, land information I should say, consumer protection, employment protection, Indigenous affairs, heritage.
Which one you enjoyed most?
Look, I really enjoyed the emergency services.
Why?
And that's mainly because of the people you meet. People don't realise that in Western Australia you've got your career fire service and career people in the metropolitan area, and outside of that the only career fire services are in Bunbury, Geraldton, Kalgoorlie,
The rest of
and Albany. The rest of it's volunteers.
Volunteers, yes.
So you go around the state and you meet some of the most fantastic people, all people volunteering of their time, and those people, I find, they were just the heart and soul of communities right around the state.
Now, you are the member of Midland currently. Yeah. Tell me something about your electorate. What's the biggest issue currently, if any, in Midland?
There's some regional centre issues. So we've had a major redevelopment of the old workshop site in its heyday.
Closed down.
Yeah, which was closed down by the last court government, which was disappointing. But since then, we've established the Midland Redevelopment Authority, We've moved police facilities there. The police, communications, forensics and traffic are all now based in Midland on the old workshop site. So it's exciting. The old Midland sale yards have also moved out of a site neighbouring that. So there's a whole lot of renewal happening.
You got a great market there.
Oh, we have, and it's as I say, it's the gateway to the valley and the hills, and some really growing areas like Allenbrook and Averley, and also to the hills areas. It services a community there. And one of the things I note is that we service a lot of people from areas like York, Northam, 2J, because for people who live in those communities and beyond in Corrigan or wherever, when they come when they come to the city, there's no need for them to come into the city of Perth. They come into Midland, and they don't just do their shopping, but they see their lawyer, their accountant, their dentist, whatever. A lot of the professional services and shopping that people from those regions access is Midland. It's a long-term traditional town centre, and there's nothing I don't think that people can't get in Midland, and no need for them to come into the city of Perth most of the time.
The election is coming up in March. How do you see your seat? Is it a safe Labour seat, or is it a challenge there from someone?
I think it would certainly be regarded as a fairly safe Labor seat. I mean, I've held it for quite some years now. And,
how many years, if I may ask?
It'd be 15 years as member for Midland. I started out as the member for Glendalough when Carmen Lawrence resigned her state seat to go into the federal parliament. That seat was abolished, and so I then moved on to the seat of Midland, and I've been there since. So, look, I work very hard in the community, and
what sort of grassroots connections you got with the community in Midland, Michelle?
Well, I often talk about my grandfather, my great-grandfather, Joe Middleton. Him and his brother settled in Midland as children. He ran a bike shop, as in a bicycle shop, before cars and whatever. And he ran that shop for about 60 years on what's now the Great Eastern Highway. My grandmother was born in a house in a street in Midland. People were born at home in those days.
Great.
So the connection goes back a long way.
Tourism in WA. Undoubtedly, we lost tourists. We're losing still. What's the future in tourism in WA? How do you see it as a shadow minister?
Tourism's a very important area, and I noticed recently in Queensland with the new government elected there, they've basically got 4 pillars to their economy, and tourism is one of the 4 pillars of that economy. That's how highly it's regarded there. It needs to have a much higher status here in Western Australia.
How can we turn this around?
It needs a lot done. One of the huge problems is a lack of hotel rooms in Perth. Now, there has to be some initiatives there to be able to incentivise getting more hotel rooms in Perth.
We're going to have the waterfront, like Dubai.
Yeah. Well, eventually. And, there's certainly been some questions raised about how economical it will be for people to put a hotel complex on the waterfront there.
Very expensive.
Very expensive, and much more expensive than putting apartments, for example.
Yes, so hotel is one thing.
Yeah.
So what else we can do?
The other thing we need is some events for weekends, major events. I mean, Victoria does this very well. I've had a look at their program of events. We need to target weekends, because one thing that the hotel industry are telling me is that the rooms are full during the week. They're largely full with people involved in business and the mining sector, and rooms in Perth are very expensive midweek. You're not, there are very few rooms available for less than $300-400 a night. Some of the highest prices you'll pay in Australia. But on a Saturday night, there's plenty of vacant rooms, so the rooms are certainly more cheap. So to get someone to build more hotels in Perth, they need to know that there's a market.
Then why people should come here to
Why
Perth?
should they come?
Yeah, as tourists. So I mean, we know we got lots of people from other countries, but they are usually coming here for studying a language or university.
Well, that's one of the
But that's not tourism, is it?
Well, it's one of the elements of the tourism agenda, because in Queensland that I was referring to, where they've
Yes.
made it a major pillar of the economy, they know that when they get a foreign student here, for example, that at the very least, when that student graduates, there'll be a visit from the parents, and
Yes.
when those parents visit, they will stay at least a week in Western Australia. That they will go out to the regions and
Yes.
see around. So every foreign student that comes to study, there's at least one family visit, in many cases
Yes.
more than that, and when they stay for about a week. So having more foreign students here, it certainly does increase tourism from their families.
More hotel rooms, more foreign students,
And
what
more,
else?
More events in Perth.
More events.
and some-
Such event, what do you envisage as an event which will bring tourism or tourists into Perth?
Events and conventions of all descriptions. I mean, obviously, sporting events often come to mind, but there's other cultural events, and I mean, the Margaret River Gourmet Escape, which was held recently in Margaret River, it was a great event.
Yes.
Events of that nature, can attract tourists to come for a particular purpose. So I think you have to market it. I mean, there's a full program of events in places like Melbourne, and the racing carnival's one of them.
So we're doing less than the other
We are
capitals
doing-
for tourism.
I think we are doing much
And you think
less.
you will turn this around?
Yeah, we have to turn it around, and we have to turn it around too, so that we can push people out to the regions, because some of the regions are doing it pretty tough in terms of their tourism numbers.
Yes.
So whilst midweek
definite.
in the CBD, you've got full hotels in the Midwest and in the Great Southern and the Southwest, they're not seeing the flow through of tourists, and
No.
one of the reasons is that the entry price into Perth midweek is very expensive. So.
And also the price in the country of WA in hotels is very, very expensive.
Well, I think-
Relatively speaking, if you want to travel somewhere from here, you go because it's much cheaper.
I think there's very different markets in regional Western Australia. If you're going to Bunbury, Bustleton at many times, you can get a really good deal. If you want to go to Port Hedland or Karratha,
a
forget
no-no.
it. Forget it. There is just no room for tourists there. They're booked out 7 days a week there.
Michelle, we have to stop in here. We're
All
going
right.
into a short break,
Okay.
and after the break, we're coming back with more discussion with Michelle Roberts on issue of policing.
Excellent.